In 1871, the county clerk of Georgia signed a quiet removal order. The overseer's name was struck from the agricultural registry. No ceremony, no defense, no public statement. By then, several charred plantation ledgers had already been entered into evidence. They were incomplete. Names were blackened at the edges, dates stopped mid-sentence, margins were burned through. But not everything had turned to ash. 3 years earlier, in 1868, scraps of paper had begun appearing in different places across the county. Behind a storage shed, near a drainage ditch, inside a collapsed smokehouse. Each fragment contained the same detail. Lists of enslaved people, partially burned, names missing in the middle, some crossed out before the fire ever touched them. At first, officials assumed it was accidental, a storage fire, war leftovers, discarded waste. But the pattern repeated. The fragments were always from record books, always from labor inventories, always from the same plantation, and always burned, but never completely destroyed.
By autumn, someone carried the fragments to the courthouse. The clerk compared them to surviving tax ledgers. Something did not match. Certain names appeared in one record, but not the other. Some individuals existed in census counts, but not in property lists. Others appeared briefly, then vanished from all official entries. The overseer denied wrongdoing. He claimed records were lost during wartime confusion. He insisted that the books were damaged accidentally. He said the plantation had reorganized its workforce. But by winter, the magistrate ordered a quiet inquiry. And before the inquiry concluded, the overseer resigned. He left the county within weeks. No farewell, no explanation. What happened on that plantation would remain buried for years.
In 1865, the Civil War ended. In rural Georgia, plantations struggled to reorganize under Reconstruction policies. Labor systems shifted. Contracts replaced chains on paper, but control often remained in the same hands. The plantation at the center of the inquiry sat near a small agricultural township. Its overseer had managed operations for nearly a decade. His signature appeared on labor assignments, crop reports, supply orders, and discipline logs. He controlled the ledgers. He supervised the counts. He reported population totals to county officials. At the time, no one questioned him. Plantations depended on experienced overseers to stabilize production. County officers relied on plantation records for tax assessments and labor reporting. The system required trust, and the overseer controlled the paperwork. During Reconstruction, federal census agents traveled through the region. They recorded households. They listed freed individuals by name. Some of those names later appeared in county tax filings. But when the courthouse compared census rolls to plantation inventories, discrepancies emerged. Several individuals listed in 1866 census pages were missing from the plantation's internal labor books. Others appeared only once, then disappeared entirely. No transfer documentation existed. No labor contract cancellations were recorded. No recorded deaths. At first glance, the differences seemed administrative. Record-keeping during Reconstruction was chaotic. But the burned fragments complicated that assumption. Why burn labor lists at all? Why not discard them? Why burn them partially? Why leave fragments behind? By late 1868, whispers began circulating in the township. Formerly enslaved families reported relatives who had vanished from payroll records without explanation. Wages had been withheld. Contract renewals were denied. Names disappeared from official books, but the individuals were still present, working, waiting, watching. The overseer insisted the plantation was operating legally. But by winter, the courthouse began collecting surviving record fragments, and someone inside the system began comparing them line by line.
The first breakthrough came from repetition. Several half-burned fragments showed the same pattern, names written in ink, a thin line drawn through them, then fire damage concentrated directly over those entries. Not random, targeted. In some cases, the burned area covered only a single individual's name. The rest of the page remained intact. One fragment revealed something else, a margin notation beside a crossed-out name, 2 letters, TC. No explanation. Later testimony would suggest those initials stood for transferred county, but no official transfer paperwork existed. The census did not show relocation. No receiving plantation recorded arrivals. The absence became harder to ignore. Former laborers began speaking cautiously. One woman stated her husband's name had been removed from the plantation book weeks before he was told he was released. But he was not given travel papers, he was not paid owed wages, he simply stopped appearing in records. Yet he continued working until winter.
Another worker claimed he saw pages removed from the ledger entirely. The overseer maintained a secondary notebook, smaller, leather-bound, kept in his coat pocket. That book was never found. By spring 1869, 3 names appeared in census documents, but nowhere in plantation accounts. The pattern expanded. Individuals marked with crossed lines were often those who requested contract copies, or those who asked about delayed payments, or those who questioned acreage assignments. Control of paper meant control of wages. Control of wages meant control of movement. If a name did not exist in official payroll, it could not claim unpaid labor. If a name did not exist in county labor reports, it could not file a formal grievance. The burn marks were not accidents, they were corrections. By winter, one former clerk from the plantation came forward quietly. He testified that the overseer had instructed him to rewrite entire pages, to clean up inconsistencies, to eliminate confusion. But the rewritten pages did not match earlier drafts, and the earlier drafts were the ones found burned. The system was cracking.
The inquiry expanded beyond plantation walls. County officials subpoenaed surviving tax records. They compared agricultural output to reported labor totals. The numbers did not align. Crop yields suggested more workers than officially listed. Payroll totals were lower than expected for acreage maintained. Missing wages accumulated. The courthouse obtained a fragment of correspondence between the overseer and a regional planter. The letter referenced uncooperative laborers and adjustments to documentation. That phrase appeared twice, adjustments to documentation. By mid-1870, 2 former workers filed formal complaints. They claimed unpaid wages and unlawful retention of earnings. Without payroll records, their cases initially stalled. But burned fragments entered as physical evidence. Handwriting analysis confirmed the overseer's script on both surviving and damaged pages. Crossed-out names aligned with complainants. Then the final contradiction surfaced. A county census assistant testified that the overseer had objected to enumerators visiting certain cabins. He claimed illness. He restricted access. That restriction corresponded with the exact households whose names were later crossed out and burned. The pattern was systematic. The burning was concealment. The concealment enabled wage suppression, and wage suppression enabled financial gain. When confronted with cumulative evidence, the overseer denied intent. He cited clerical error. He blamed wartime confusion. But the financial discrepancies were documented. And in 1871, the magistrate issued a formal finding of fraudulent record alteration. The overseer resigned before criminal sentencing. His property was seized to cover unpaid wages. Public notice was posted, his name removed from county registry.
The affected workers received partial restitution, not full compensation, but documented acknowledgement. For many, that acknowledgement mattered. Their names were re-entered into official county rolls. Corrected ledgers replaced altered ones. Future payroll documentation required dual verification. The county implemented oversight for plantation reporting. It was imperfect, but it was recorded. As for the overseer, He relocated briefly to another county. Employment records show he attempted to manage a smaller farm. That venture failed within 2 years. Without reputation, without trust, without access to large estates.
His financial records reveal mounting debt. By 1874, he was listed in a local notice of insolvency. No further appointments appear. No agricultural contracts. No public office. He disappears from formal county documents after that year. The plantation itself changed ownership. New managers adopted stricter bookkeeping practices. The burned fragments were preserved in courthouse archives. Evidence: small pieces of paper that survived fire. Names that refused erasure. The system had allowed control through documentation, but documentation also exposed it. In the end, the overseer lost more than position. He lost the authority to define who existed on paper, and in Reconstruction-era Georgia, that mattered. His house still stands. His name does not.